Set along the southern border in 1911, Red Dead Redemption centers around the former gang member and outlaw John Marston. The game opens just after John's wife and young son have been kidnapped by the Bureau of Investigation. In order to get them back, as well as amnesty for his past crimes, John must bring a former gang accomplice of his, Bill Williamson, to justice. Bill is held up in an old military fortress known as Fort Mercer, where he runs his own gang. For the friendship they once had, John attempts to arrest Bill peacefully, but he ends up antagonizing his old friend, with Bill retaliating by shooting and critically wounding John. The following morning, John awakes in the cabin on the McFarland ranch, where local rancher Bonnie McFarland brought him to recover. John repays Bonnie for saving his life by doing odd jobs around the ranch, and the two strike up a close friendship. During this time, John confesses that he left the gang after he was shot during a robbery and they abandoned him. While at the ranch, John ventures into the local town of Armadillo and acquaints himself with the US Marshal Lee Johnson. Although Bill Williamson isn't within Johnson's jurisdiction, he agrees to help John in return for assistance on a number of local crimes. As John builds up a relationship with the US Marshal, he begins to develop a small team of people that can assist in breaking into Fort Mercer. Among these recruits is the con man Nigel West Dickens, the grave robber treasure hunter Seth Briers, and the stereotypical drunk known as Irish. Together, and with the US Marshal's help, they manage to break into Fort Mercer and wipe out all of Bill's gang. Unfortunately, Bill himself manages to escape, and he flees to northern Mexico seeking help from Javier Escuela, another member of John's former gang. With no other choice, John sets off in pursuit of the outlaw and crosses the border. Mexico is at a time of political unrest as Abraham Reyes leads a rebellion in the northern states. On the promise of assistance in capturing Escuela and Williamson, John helps Colonel Agustin Allende in his attempts to put down the rebellion. After using John on a number of dangerous missions, Allende betrays Marston and attempts to have him killed. Unknown at the time, Bill Williamson was actually under Allende's protection. Before they can execute John, however, rebels led by Reyes ambush the army and John escapes. Now siding with rebel leader Reyes, John assists in gradually turning the tide of the war. Reyes, John and rebel forces launch an assault on a military fortress where John captures Escuela, handing him over to the Bureau. John and Reyes then launch another assault, this time on Allende's villa, where the colonel is finally killed alongside Williamson. Unfortunately, the Bureau aren't quite finished with John yet. Agent Edgar Ross tasks him with capturing another of his former gang members, leader Dutch. Dutch has been forming his own gang, with sympathizers from the local Indian reservation. John leads US soldiers in attacking Dutch's hideout, and ends up in close pursuit of his former mentor. Trapped by a cliff's ledge, Dutch ultimately chooses to commit suicide over being captured. Before throwing himself off the cliff, however, he warns John not to trust the Bureau.
When I'm gone, they'll just find another monster. They have to. Because they have to justify their wages.
Finally reunited with his family, John works on creating a sustainable farm on a small plot of land he owns. He re-establishes a relationship with his son, and things are finally beginning to look good for the family. That is until Agent Ross leads a surprise US Army assault on John's land. John sacrifices himself to get his family to safety and ends up being massacred by the assault. The game then moves 3 years ahead to 1914, where Marston's son Jack stands over the graves of both his father and recently deceased mother. He leaves home in search for Agent Edgar Ross, who retired the year before, and eventually finds the former agent hunting on a riverbank in Mexico. The two duel, with Jack emerging the victor.